Refused to lend $15,000. My family tried to ruin me. You ever say no to someone and suddenly feel like you set the entire world on fire? Yeah, that was me about 3 weeks ago. So, for context, I, 32M, have always been the responsible one in my family. You know, the type pays bills on time, has a decent job, actually saves money instead of blowing it on jet skis or crypto scams. And because of that, apparently, I'm everyone's unofficial ATM. The latest? My brother-in-law, Todd, 35M. Todd's a character. Think every get-rich-quick scheme you've ever heard of: pyramid sales, flipping sneakers, crypto investments that totally aren't scams. That's Todd's entire resume. He married my older sister, Jess, about 5 years ago. And ever since then, it's been one financial disaster after another. Anyway, about 3 weeks ago, Todd calls me out of the blue. And by out of the blue, I mean he called me 4 times in a row and left me a panicked voicemail that sounded like he was being chased by loan sharks. I called him back, genuinely worried something awful had happened. Big mistake. Turns out, Todd needed $15,000 ASAP. Something about a once-in-a-lifetime business opportunity that he couldn't miss. He literally wouldn't tell me what it was, just kept using buzzwords like scalable and passive income. I asked the obvious question. Why me? /in/in, he mumbled something about the banks being stupid and just not being comfortable asking mom and dad. Translation: everyone else already said no. So yeah, I said no. Politely but firmly. Sorry, man. I'm not comfortable loaning out that kind of money. You'd think I spit in his face. Todd immediately went off, called me selfish, greedy, said I owed it to family to help. Said Jess was ashamed of me for turning my back on them. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. Thought that was the end of it. Spoiler, it wasn't. Because apparently Todd and Jess decided to go nuclear. Within 24 hours, my phone was blowing up. Texts, calls, voicemails. From my parents, from cousins, even from some random great aunt I hadn't seen in a decade. All saying some variation of, family helps family. How could you do this to your sister? It's just money. You'll make more. And just when I thought it couldn't get any crazier. Todd posted a giant, whiny Facebook status about betrayal and snakes in the grass and tagged me. Tagged me. Publicly. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about $15,000. This was about control. And it was about to get a whole lot messier than I ever imagined. You ever feel like you're living in a reality show you didn't even sign up for? Because after Todd's little Facebook meltdown, my life turned into full-on Jerry Springer, Family Edition. Within hours, I had random extended family members, people I barely even knew, sliding into my DMs with essays about forgiveness, blood being thicker than water, and how I needed to remember where I came from. One cousin even had the nerve to say, if the roles were reversed, Todd would help you. Yeah, right? Todd once Venmo requested me $4.87 after buying me a coffee as a favor. Not even kidding. Anyway, I stayed silent. I figured if I didn't feed the trolls, they'd get bored and move on. Spoiler, wrong again. By the next weekend, my parents, who usually try to stay Switzerland in these things, asked if I could come over for a chat. I already knew it was going to be bad, but I went. Because despite everything, some tiny stupid part of me still hoped maybe they'd actually listen. Spoiler, they did not. The second I sat down, Mom launched into a whole Broadway performance about family unity and second chances and how Todd was really stressed and people do crazy things when they're desperate. Then Dad, who barely says 2 words unless it's about football or grilling, dropped his gem. It's just money, son. You can't take it with you. Cool, Dad. Maybe write that on my tombstone. I sat there, stunned. Did they even hear themselves? I wasn't refusing because I was greedy. I was refusing because Todd was a human dumpster fire of bad decisions and empty promises. I calmly, so calmly I think I gave myself a migraine, explained that I wasn't willing to throw $15,000 into a mystery pit called Todd's Brilliant Ideas. That it wasn't about the money. It was about boundaries. It was about respect. It was about not setting myself on financial fire just so Todd could stay warm. And you know what my mom said? She looked me dead in the eye, voice trembling like she was auditioning for a soap opera, and said, if you really loved your sister, you'd find a way. That broke something in me. Because deep down, yeah, I do love my sister. But love doesn't mean handing over your future because someone else can't manage theirs. Love doesn't mean bankrupting yourself for people who wouldn't blink if you disappeared. So I stood up. No yelling. No drama. Just done. I told them I wasn't changing my mind and walked out of the house. The second I stepped outside, it felt like a weight slid off my chest. Driving home, I felt numb. Like something massive had snapped inside me and there was no putting it back together. And honestly, I thought that was the end of it. I thought, okay, they'll stew for a while, maybe ghost me for a few months, and life will move on. But oh, my sweet summer child. I had no idea how petty, how insane things were about to get. Because the next morning, Todd decided to turn the crazy dial up to 11. And my phone? It started lighting up with stuff that made me wonder if I was living in an alternate universe. You ever wake up to find your life has turned into a full-blown group chat nightmare? Because that's what happened to me. I rolled over, bleary-eyed, grabbed my phone, and saw it blowing up with about 1 million notifications. Texts, Facebook tags, Instagram DMs, even freaking LinkedIn requests. Todd had officially declared war. Apparently, overnight, he started a Justice for Todd Facebook group. I'm not even joking. He made a whole-ass group accusing me of abandoning family, hoarding wealth, and emotionally destroying my sister's marriage. They even had a cover photo, a graphic, like they were running for political office or something. It was the most unhinged thing I'd ever seen. At first, I laughed. Like, actual belly laughed. Because how else do you react when someone goes full Disney villain because you wouldn't fund their mystery business venture? But the laughter didn't last long. Because then I saw the messages flooding in. Real threats. Nasty, aggressive stuff. People I'd never even met calling me a traitor, a heartless piece of trash, even a parasite. Still trying to figure that one out. Somehow, Todd had managed to frame the narrative like I was the one who destroyed everything. Like I was the villain. The mental gymnastics were Olympic level. For a hot second, I considered responding. Posting receipts. Screenshots. Explaining everything. But then I stopped myself. Because no one who believed Todd's nonsense was interested in the truth. They didn't want facts. They wanted a bad guy. And guess what? I wasn't going to audition for the role. So I blocked Todd. Blocked half the extended family. Reported the worst messages. And then, most importantly, I made myself a damn good breakfast, took Max, my golden retriever, for a long walk, and reminded myself who the hell I was. Because at the end of the day, I wasn't the one begging for handouts. I wasn't the one weaponizing family to cover up my own failures. I wasn't the one building my life out of pity and manipulation. I was the one setting boundaries. And if that made me the villain in their sad little soap opera, fine. I'd be the best damn villain they'd ever seen. You ever reach a point where you realize you're not just fighting one person, you're fighting an entire system built against you? Yeah, that was me. After I blocked Todd and his little flying monkeys, things went weirdly quiet. Too quiet. And if there's one thing I've learned from growing up in this family, it's that quiet doesn't mean peace. It means someone's loading the cannon. Sure enough, a week later, my parents invited me over for dinner. I almost said no. Should have said no. But some part of me, the stupid, stubborn part that still wanted to believe blood meant something, said yes. Big mistake. I showed up and immediately knew something was off. Todd's car was parked out front. So was Jess's. Inside, everyone was already gathered around the dining table like it was an intervention episode. Sit down, Dad said, his voice low and serious. I stayed standing. Todd launched into some dramatic speech about how he didn't mean for things to get out of hand, but that I left him no choice. No choice. Like publicly dragging me on Facebook was just an unavoidable part of the process. Jess jumped in, teary-eyed, accusing me of destroying the family bond and humiliating them by making them look bad in front of everyone. I hadn't posted a single thing. I hadn't even told my side. But somehow, this was all my fault. Classic. Mom tried to soften it by saying, "We just want to fix this. We're all hurting." And then, the real reason I was there dropped. They wanted me to apologize. Publicly. To post some mealy-mouthed status about family misunderstanding and forgiving each other, basically waving the white flag and letting Todd save face. Oh, and cherry on top, reconsider the loan. I wish I could tell you I handled it gracefully. I didn't. I laughed. Loudly. Ugly. Straight from the gut. Because it was so mind-bendingly absurd that it tipped over into hilarious. When I finally stopped laughing, I said, very calmly, "No." Simple. Final. "Then you're dead to us," Todd snapped. Jess burst into tears. Mom looked like I'd kicked a puppy. Dad just shook his head like I'd personally let him down in some epic, ancient way. I nodded, turned around, and walked out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't throw a tantrum. Didn't even say goodbye. Because honestly, you don't owe goodbye to people who treat your love like a transaction. You just leave. And you keep walking. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. You ever hit that point where you're so done you feel nothing? Because that's where I was. Not angry. Not sad. Just done. I spent the next few days in what I can only describe as emotional detox. Deleted Facebook. Blocked a dozen numbers. Muted the family group chat. Every time a memory of that dinner tried to crawl into my brain, I shut it down. Because I wasn't about to rent space in my head to people who couldn't even spell loyalty. The crazy part? Life got better. Quieter. Simpler. I wasn't constantly waiting for the next passive-aggressive guilt trip. I wasn't stressing about disappointing people who never really saw me anyway. It felt like someone had finally taken their foot off my chest. Max, my golden retriever, my actual ride or die, was thriving too. We started going on longer hikes. Sleeping in. Eating greasy takeout on the couch without a single, "You should settle down and have a real family" comment echoing in my ears. Freedom tasted suspiciously like bad Chinese food and pure peace. But because this is my life we're talking about, Todd wasn't done yet. About 2 weeks after the "you're dead to us" drama, I got a letter. A literal, honest-to-God, stamped envelope letter. It was from a family mediator Todd had hired. Apparently, he was willing to reconcile if I issued a public apology, agreed to a temporary loan arrangement seriously, and attended family therapy sessions to repair the damage caused. I read it twice just to make sure it wasn't a prank. Nope. Dead serious. Todd genuinely believed that after nuking my reputation, dragging my name through the mud, and treating me like human trash, I'd just cave. I didn't even bother responding. I shredded the letter, tossed it in Max's poop bag, and kept walking. Because you know what? I don't negotiate with emotional terrorists. And I sure as hell don't apologize for choosing myself. Not anymore. You ever realize your silence drives people crazier than any words you could ever say? Because the quieter I stayed, the louder Todd and the rest of the family got. It started small. A few accidental pocket dial calls from Jess. A vague Facebook post from Mom about families falling apart because of selfishness. A cryptic Instagram story from Todd with a black screen and the words "real ones know." Honestly, it was kind of pathetic. But then it escalated. Hard. One night, around 10 p.m., someone pounded on my door so hard I thought it was the police. Max went ballistic. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, heart hammering out of my chest. Peered through the peephole. It was Jess. She looked wrecked, mascara smeared, hair a mess, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. Against my better judgment, I cracked the door. "What do you want, Jess?" She burst into tears. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "Todd's been out of control. He's been drinking. He's furious you're not helping. I'm scared." I stood there, frozen. Because for the first time in months, I saw my sister again, not the Todd Echo version of her. She looked small, fragile, broken. "Come inside," I said quietly. We sat on the couch, Max wedging himself protectively between us. Just spilled everything. Todd had maxed out their credit cards chasing one shady scheme after another. He drained the savings account. He borrowed money from sketchy people. And now, apparently, he was blaming me for their mess. Because I abandoned them. Because I forced them into this. Because, in Todd's twisted logic, my refusal to hand over $15,000 somehow justified everything falling apart. Just cried harder. "I didn't know it was this bad," she whispered. I thought if you just helped, it would fix things." I closed my eyes. Because honestly, that hurt worse than anything Todd had done. Just believed him. Even now, she half believed that my no was the catalyst, not Todd's endless greed and selfishness. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about money. It was about a family dynamic so toxic that people would rather blame the healthy one for leaving than admit the whole system was broken. I opened my eyes and looked at Jess. "You need to leave him," I said quietly. She flinched. "I can't," she whispered. "You can," I said. "You're just scared." She wiped her face, trembling. "Will you help me?" she asked. My stomach twisted. Because yeah, part of me wanted to slam the door on all of it. To finally, truly walk away. But another part of me, the part that remembered sleepovers and scraped knees and secret sibling handshakes, couldn't do it. "I'll help you," I said. But not him. Never him. And as we sat there, side by side in the wreckage, I realized something else, something even heavier. Sometimes saving yourself means reaching back for the ones who are finally ready to climb out, too. Even if it hurts. Especially if it hurts. Helping Jess wasn't as simple as tossing her a lifeline and calling it a day. It was messy. It was complicated. And honestly, it cracked open wounds I didn't even know I still had. The first step was getting her out. I helped her pack a duffel bag the next morning while Todd was at work. Jess was jittery, jumping at every sound. Max stuck to her like glue, almost like he sensed how fragile she was. We moved fast. Essentials only. Some clothes, important documents, her laptop, a handful of family photos she couldn't leave behind. Every second felt like stealing time. At one point, while stuffing papers into a backpack, she looked up at me, eyes glassy. "Do you think he'll find me?" The question hit me like a sucker punch. Because she wasn't talking about Todd getting mad. She was talking about Todd getting dangerous. "You'll be safe," I said, voice firm. "I promise." We slipped out the back door like fugitives. I drove her to a friend's place across town, someone Todd barely knew, someone who could give her a couch to crash on for a few weeks. Just cried the whole way. Silent tears, like she didn't even have the energy to sob anymore. When we pulled into the driveway, she turned to me. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not giving up on me." I squeezed her hand, throat too tight to answer. Because the truth was, I almost had. I watched her walk up to the door, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, shoulders hunched against the weight of everything. And even though it gutted me, even though it ripped open every scar I tried to heal, I knew she had to do this alone now. She had to choose herself the way I'd chosen me. The drive home was a blur. The sun was setting, bleeding orange and pink across the sky, and for a moment, everything felt heavy and beautiful and unbearable all at once. When I got back to my place, Max greeted me with his usual full-body wag, like he hadn't just been part of a covert rescue mission. I sat on the couch, still wearing the same clothes, staring into space. Because even though I knew I'd done the right thing, it didn't feel victorious. It felt like grieving. Grieving the family I'd always wished for but never really had. Grieving the sister who had been pulled under by someone else's bad choices. Grieving the idea that love alone could fix anything. It couldn't. It never could. Hours later, my phone buzzed. A new number. I didn't answer. A voicemail popped up. It was Todd. Slurring. Ranting. Calling me every name in the book. Threatening lawsuits. Threatening ruining my life. Saying I'd poisoned Jess against him. I deleted the voicemail without listening to the end. Blocked the number. Then I stood up, grabbed Max's leash, and walked out into the night. No destination. No plan. Just one foot in front of the other. Because sometimes, healing isn't about fixing everything. Sometimes it's just about surviving the wreckage long enough to build something new. And damn it, I was still standing. You ever realize your life can change completely in the smallest, quietest moments? A few days after helping Jess, I woke up to sunlight streaming through my window. No buzzing phone. No angry messages. No drama. Just peace. Real, solid, gut-deep peace. It felt almost unnatural. I made coffee. Took Max for a walk. Answered some emails. Normal, boring things that felt like luxuries after months of chaos. Jess texted me around noon. She had found a part-time job. She was staying with her friend for now. She was okay. "Thank you for giving me a second chance," she wrote. I sat there for a long time staring at the screen. Because I realized it wasn't just her second chance. It was mine too. A second chance to live without the constant guilt. A second chance to build a life that wasn't based on obligation or blood ties, but on choice. On trust. On respect. And yeah, it was terrifying. Starting over always is. But it was also exhilarating. Because I wasn't a victim. I wasn't some background character in Todd's endless drama. I was the author of my own damn story. So yeah, I said no to lending my brother-in-law money. The family lost their minds. They tried to shame me, threaten me, bully me back into submission. But in the end, I won. Not because I beat them, not because I got the last word, but because I chose me. And for the first time in my life, that was enough. So if anyone's wondering, would I do it again? Say no, walk away, choose myself over their chaos? In a heartbeat. Every damn time.